Oh boy, here we go. You guys are gonna hate me. Welcome to The Critique, where we watch some animated goodies and determine whether we should tune in or tune out. I'm Song, your resident cartoon connoisseur, and this is Courage the Cowardly Dog. Courage is an animated comedic horror program created by John R. Dilworth and part of the Cartoons block of Cartoon Network. It started out as a pilot short on Hanna-Barbera's What a Cartoon Showcase, and from there it was greenlit by Cartoon Network for a series that premiered on November 12, 1999, and ended a 4-season run on November 22, 2002. Courage was acclaimed critically and nowadays enjoys a strong cult following. And now it even has a prequel series officially confirmed. Ha! How's that for timing? I planned this video a year ago. Personally, this show really creeped me out as a kid, but how do I feel about it as an adult? I'm interested to find out.
We interrupt this program to bring you...
Every episode starts with an old-timey news report that basically explains the entire premise of the show. I'm always saying that an intro sequence should set up a show and display exactly what you're getting into, and this is one of those titles that takes that pretty literally, which I don't think is a bad thing. In fact, I think it's somewhat common and unique to Western animated programs, and it has its own charm to it. Meanwhile, in the background, a banjo piece plays that is interestingly enough paired with a ukulele. This fits the program well, while simultaneously making use of a tropical sounding contrast that I found fascinating every time the intro played. Visually, the intro is formatted as a retro news program, as I have said before, with the anchor showing off unique images of Courage's origins as he explains them. As always, I am a fan of unique clips, but the intro does not change between seasons, so I suppose a show like this doesn't need to. It's just something that I always appreciate. As for the ending, it's just some credits over a screen with a repeating pattern of screaming courages engraved into it. Of course, in the later seasons you get this weird the end screen in CGI that, well, it just didn't age well and might be the scariest thing in the whole series if I'm being honest. So the intro explains the premise of this well-known and popular program pretty thoroughly, but I suppose I can still go over it just in case. After being abandoned as a puppy, Courage was picked up by an elderly farmer couple, Eustace and Muriel. They then took their new pet home to their farm in the middle of nowhere, and it's up to the cowardly dog himself to loyally protect his owners from the scary and supernatural happenings of the mysterious area, even though half the time it is completely undeserved. Honestly, there's not much else to say here. The premise is simple and there isn't really a plot going on overall. The show is strictly formulaic, and though there are some elements and characters that stick around for future episodes, you can easily hop into the show starting at any given point and not feel lost or left behind in the slightest. The formula within the episodes will usually consist of the main characters lounging about at home or wherever, until some evil force shows up trying to kill them all. Courage then takes it upon himself to protect Muriel from whatever dark forces come after her. And I guess he helps Eustace too, though really, who cares about that guy? Speaking of which, let's take a quick transition into characters. Starting off the cast here, we have Courage the Cowardly Dog, as well as Muriel, the sweet old farmer's wife who deserves so much more, and we'll come back to this one later. As for support, there isn't really much. I guess you don't really see anyone regularly when you live on a dead farm in the middle of nowhere, you know? There are certainly reoccurring friendly-ish faces, such as Dr. Vindaloo, but the only entity close enough to a support character for me is Courage's computer, who frequently provides aid when the doggo wants to look something up or call for help, and I enjoy its snarky attitude whenever it shows up, though it only appears just barely enough for me to consider it support. Of course, there is no shortage of villains in this program. Almost every episode has a brand new baddie to ward off, and many of them are reoccurring, such as LeQuack and Cats. That said, the main villain will always and forever be Mr. Eustace Bagg, the worst person on the planet, to the point where my only problem with Muriel is that she sticks around with him. The amount of work Courage goes through to save his skin, whether it be intentionally or not, is ridiculous, even if it's for Muriel's sake. He's greedy and cruel, and he's decent as an antagonist, but I find him annoying and unlikable, probably because the protagonists live with him and he's a universal constant in the series. Otherwise, I think the characters are very interesting and distinct from each other. Courage the Cowardly Dog is a 2D hand-drawn animated program. The whole time I was watching it, I kept thinking of it as a significantly creepier Looney Tunes. It has a similar aesthetic to it, with the squash and stretch animation and wacky chase sequences with every kind of slapstick. The art style is sufficiently spooky with atmospheric colors that really set the tone for the program. Not to mention, character design is not only unique to the show, but every character looks distinct from each other with exaggerated and somewhat asymmetrical shapes. As for the writing and humor, this is where I personally have some issues. I can appreciate the dark humor as it was something that was common but not necessarily focused on in cartoons back then, at least not like it is in this show. I can enjoy the slapstick and Looney Tunes tomfoolery that every episode seems so proud of. But Courage has this mindless, random humor where things kind of just happen sometimes, and it always felt disconnected to me and like it was only there to pad out runtime. You can always tell that it's supposed to be funny, and I know people enjoy the type of humor that subverts expectations, but to me it always felt awkward here. We also have the inconsistency of Courage's ability to talk. If you ask me, I see no reason for it to be there at all. Sure, it's implied that no one understands him anyway, but his communication through props and shapeshifting works just fine and is much funnier, and I feel like some of the writers knew that because various and randomly placed episodes will have them relying entirely on that, hence the aforementioned inconsistency. It also doesn't help that I cannot stand Courage's voice specifically. Everyone else is perfectly fine, but Courage is hard to listen to in my opinion. He has this broken, whiny voice with a strange, hearty New York accent that I could never get used to, and made his screams of terror sound awkward and forced. It was something that I just could not get past no matter how hard I tried, despite the show being presented pretty well otherwise. Overall, Courage the Cowardly Dog is a show defined by its creepy atmosphere and wacky antics, but it's a show that thoroughly bored me as I watched it. I understand why so many people look back on this one fondly, and I appreciate what makes this series iconic. In fact, I was talking to my roommates about my thoughts on Courage, and they all started a fun conversation about their favorite episodes and what made Courage special to them. And I love that this show has that kind of impact. But as for me, I tuned out of Courage the Cowardly Dog. But hey, I'm not even going to recommend you guys not watch it. I know it's just me. So what do you think about the show? Let me know in the comments below. Also, if you can find it in your heart to forgive me, subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed. If you would like to continue the conversation, my Twitter is active and my Discord is open to all. Links will be in the description below. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to have a fantastic day, and I hope you guys do too. Thanks for watching.